Commandos. Shatterpoint receives its first ever big wave of balance changes. What got better? What got worse? It's time to find out.
Hello everyone, and welcome. We've got exciting news here. The changes have dropped, the much anticipated changes. And of course, who would I talk about them with if not Mr. Lee? Hello, Lee.
Hello, Matt. Thank you for having me. It's a very exciting day.
Very exciting. We're trying to do this quick. We'll see how fast we get all this out. Given some initial thoughts, having looked over the documents, and yeah, we'll just dive right in. We're going to start by talking about Republic. They got the most love in this change. They don't make up quite half the changes, but yeah, we'll see how this goes, and keep an eye out for more videos after. We're just going to go in. Some units we'll talk a lot about, some we'll talk a little bit about. We'll go back and forth. I'm going to be greedy because I think it's important we talk about ARF first. It kind of frames, for me, everything with Republic. Because there's no more coordinated fire exposed on ARF.
That's huge.
And some other stuff. It's still in the game, but it's going to play a much smaller part in the game. Which I think, personally, is good for the game.
I think it's very healthy for the game that we're finally not getting rid of it, but at least making it more of a special thing than, I think, as you've noted before, everyone brings ARF. They'll happily play a point down just for the benefit of CF Expose, and I'm very glad to see it getting sort of pushed out.
Exactly. It just made too many characters feel samey. Like, Mando feels the same as Han and Chewie, I guess, defending-wise, when you've got coordinated fire exposed. It has been replaced, so ARF get one extra point. They stay at 3, or one extra point of health, I should say. They stay at 3, despite being in the Mace box, with Mace going to a 7. And they get supporting fire dash, which I don't have tons to say about it yet. We'll talk about it more with Mace and with Anakin. But I like this much more than on Kit Fisto. I notably did not like it on Kit, and I like it much more on a support than on a primary. You get more board coverage, and usually support abilities are worse than primary support abilities. I stole that one from you, so you are the guest. I should be polite. What do you want to talk about next?
I have a special place in my heart for Clone Commandos. I'm a huge Republic Commando fan, and so I was very... I love that Clone Commandos made it to the game, but I always felt like they were kind of... I had a hard time putting them on the table, and I actually really like the new set of changes they made to the Clone Commandos. I know it's not a huge thing, but 1 extra health, like 6 health is, even with the benefit of protection, still made them feel really squishy against things like No Mercy, Deflection, Django's not so fast, which we'll talk about in a different video. But I really think 7 health with protection has pushed them to a point where it's like, all right, now these are people who feel like they're wearing Katarn armor. They can probably like actually stand toe to toe with the best of the clones. And of course, they actually updated their tree. So
the expertise specifically on defense. Yeah,
It
so it
always
doesn't get
felt
worse.
yeah,
Thank goodness. It doesn't get worse.
exactly. It always felt weird that it was like, great, I had 2 expertise and now I've got 3 expertise and somehow I lost a block out of that. So this is all just like, in my opinion, like quality of life changes that just make them feel sensible.
It's still, yes, they get 1 shot less. They're still so slow. I kind of wish they had a little more movement, but if you do have ARF around, the fact that you could shoot and then coordinated or supporting fire dash and then you scale to make that a climb,
That's really nice.
kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But they're probably maybe my 3rd or 4th choice for forecast. And do you know who I really like? If you're good to move on, I really like...
because I know you like them a lot. Go for it.
I love the look of the new 212. They get the standard +1 health. They actually got a change to their card, which is now they have Sharpshooter 1. Will that come into play all that much? I don't know, but whatever. Nice to have it.
Yeah.
But their important glow-up is the defensive dice. They were a 4-3 before for kind of no reason. I guess because they were snipers.
Yeah.
But they were kind of bad at shooting and bad at defending, so they're just bad. But coordinated fire pin is still really good. Yeah. And they've got that. This is, I think, a great use of the hit to crit expertise, because that, to me, actually, that feels really snipery, similar to what Cassian is kind of doing. As someone who is only looking to get 1 or 2 down the tree, the amount of times these guys are going to get 2 crits,
Yes.
for that 2 damage pin shove, oh, I love it. I like it a lot.
Pin shove on 2 results with very easy access to crit, double crit. Couldn't ask for more. What a great upgrade.
I don't see myself playing a point down a lot now in Republic. Like, these guys are definitely worth the 4. The one spot I could see maybe not taking these guys is in a Hunter list, just because with Hunter you're adding extra hits, you're trying to get more hits through, and these guys are just getting a couple crits through, so the extra hit will probably be blocked. But hey, whatever. I do think we're seeing a lot more Ki-Adi-Mundi. You know what Ki-Adi-Mundi can't do effectively? He can't pin you, which means if you're attacking Ezra, Kanan, any of those guys who, spoiler alert, didn't get nerfed, then they're just going to potentially dash right back after you shove them. So I think the pin is really good there. Who do you want to talk about next, Mr. Lee?
I think let's keep down the 2/12 vein and talk about one of the most famous 2/12 around. Kind of a, I think it's definitely a buff for Clone Commander Cody, so that's always good to see. I really like the change to "We've got a big problem," giving him that jump. He is one of the clones who actually canonically
he has
wears
a jetpack.
Yeah, he wears a jetpack almost everywhere he goes. So I really like that helped, and I think the bigger thing about, like, a jump is always handy, but the thing I really liked about it is so much of Cody's kit feels like you want to be hunkered, you want to take a focus, and you just don't have the actions to, like, focus, hunker, shoot. You probably need to defensive maneuver to get your hunker token.
Yeah, you're probably like defensive maneuvering, so you can but then you're so immobile.
Exactly, which is a weird thing for someone with a jetpack. So just giving him that jump off the hop, which also helps with him getting into range to throw out his expose. All of these things put together, I think, are a really big change to making him feel more like his 2/12 brethren, a sharpshooter or a sniper.
The movement helps a lot for Cody, but one of the problems was always, man, he just doesn't get that expose off on his first turn. He really needs someone to help move him up. And I think he's still in that, looking at, messing around with some measurements a little bit. If you don't dash him up first, a jump plus range 3, because it's not even like Wrecker, who, for I Wasn't Sneaking, he measures range 3 to the objective. Cody's measuring range 3 to the character, who could then be a little further than the objective. So I think he still has a similar problem.
Yeah.
The other thing we should mention about Cody, his defense is still bad. But the main thing is he got essentially an extra result on every expertise bucket. So that helps a lot too, because it really sucks to be a shooty character who has bad shooty expertise.
Turns out that's kind of an important part.
I guess it's my choice now. We did a little run on troopers, but I'll come back to our last trooper later. Let's do one of the big guns here. We can't leave them all for the end. So let's do Mr. Anakin Skywalker. I think we're going to talk. We're going to talk a little bit about this guy because we have to. So not only can he attack a different character than the first attack, he can flip his stance in between. Right away, that's pretty good. This is where I want to talk about ARF and Coordinated Fire Dash. Well, in a moment, actually, because if we look at his, if we skip to his Gemso stance, he's got a ranged attack, which they also teased at Adepticon. So he's still not super fast. He advances, pay 1 for jump. If you don't get to melee, you know what you can do? You can force blast or force crush someone with his ranged attack, trigger the supporting fire dash into melee with someone, and then pay 2 force, do your second attack. So I think ARF, they cost 3, it's right there. They're going to be staple to Anakin for pretty much that reason alone. Or you can melee someone, dash, melee someone else. Like, it's so good with Anakin.
Lots of flexibility, which I really like to see. And of course, I really think this is where the fun begins, is such a huge change for him with getting all of those dashes out. I think one of the problems that I felt when I personally was playing Anakin, I think you felt the same thing too, was that perfect dice. Let's pretend he gets all the crits in the world. He probably kills one guy and flips 1 point. Maybe he killed a support that's holding another point as well. Maybe you get 2 flips out of him, and that was it. Which really didn't feel very good for such a noteworthy primary in the game. And now here's someone who, yeah, very high risk, high reward. He really wants to get those kills, but if he gets them, suddenly your whole army just surges forward, potentially taking multiple points, and that's incredible. So really love to see that.
Awesome. Oh, for sure. Yeah, because we're always, and again, I don't want Kit to catch too many strays here, but I was ragging on him earlier in the episode. He's a really selfish primary who doesn't move people, and that was a problem with Anakin. That's been a problem with a lot of primaries I don't like. So the fact that you get just a ton of dashes if you kill a secondary or primary, Anakin's also can be very force hungry. So hey, what do you know? You can refresh a force, and you can do critically if you kill 2 different people on your turn. You get 2 force refresh. Now, if you kill 2 primaries, the other abilities still only trigger once at the end of the turn. So that's good. That could get out of hand fast. Anakin, huge glow up. Probably the headliner of the whole changes as far as buffs go, I would say.
I think so. I think it's really interesting, and I like that they were willing to go this direction with. When I heard rebalance, for me, I think a lot of my initial take was like, oh, they're just going to like increase dice or change expertise trees. I wasn't expecting to see like really significant identity changes, and I'm really glad that they did it for Anakin, who I don't think I saw on the table as much. So I think this is great. Gonna love seeing more Anakin, who of course is such a pivotal character of the series. So yeah, like definitely one of my favorite changes out of the list.
Where do you want to go to next?
I'm going to take it down. Like we're going to go down a little. I'm going to talk since we're talking about Anakin. We're going to talk about the 501st.
That's exactly where I was hoping you'd go. I felt like that's a good move.
Yeah. Like let's be clear. The 501st got a buff. They got a health, which is lovely. Their tree is better.
Better. It's better.
It's better. The 501st kind of had a place as the 3-point support for a while. And then ARF came out, and then you were like, okay, well maybe if I take Mace and I take Anakin, I need like 2 3-point supports, so then they'll show up. And now you have Phil's clones. Why would I take them when there are so many other, in my opinion, better 3-point options? Coordinate Fire Strain is still solid, but
Coordinate Fire Strain is still solid. They've got a bit better defense than ARF if they don't have that hunker, because ARF are kind of depending on lay low to give them some extra dice.
Yeah.
Because they're 4/4 in defense.
Yeah.
But if you're taking these, maybe you're taking a 7 anyway, and the 7s, I really like the supporting fire dash with the 7s. The good thing they have over Phil's clones, so the important thing I think that we both like about Phil's clones is that they shove on 2 and 4, so they can get a shove on 4 as well, double shove. But importantly, they shove on 2. 501st shove on 3, and that's just a lot less often. But Phil's clones don't do any damage.
Yes.
501st, they can do a lot of damage. With 7 dice and a crit on 1 expertise, you're pretty reliably looking at 2 crits every attack, probably, often. If you do that twice, you're looking at 7 damage with a pin. That'll finish off a lot of people if they have any damage.
Yeah.
It won't one-shot stuff, usually, now that clones are not 7 health. But that's not how I usually like to play. I usually value stuff like shoves a little bit over damage, but I think that's their niche.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're probably my third choice for 3-cost clone supports, unfortunately. I kind of wish they got the supporting fire dash, because I feel like then they could be the ones glued to Anakin, and that's, just more thematic. So, in a similar vein, someone who certainly got better, but let's go to Ahsoka Tano, Jedi No More. Yeah, so remember what we said about greedy primaries. She's still a pretty greedy primary. But I'm really interested in squeezing a revenge trigger into Republic, because that's kind of been the thing they're missing, because Ahsoka Tano was pretty bad before. She got a big buff. She can heal, and then before she had to do the advance first, so if she was pinned or strained, it wasn't great. And then she can make a melee against the character who caused the effect. So here's my problem with this. On the surface, okay, this is interesting because, notably, it does not say a 5-dice melee attack.
Yes.
It just says a melee attack. So you get all your dice, which
Mhm.
in this case is 6 or 7 dice.
Not bad.
We've spent the last year-ish learning how to play against Kanan revenge triggers, and Leia revenge triggers, and Mando revenge triggers, and now Cassian revenge triggers, but especially Kanan, and how to deal with that. You know who's a lot easier to play around their revenge trigger? Ahsoka Tano, a melee-only character. Why is Kanan partly so good? He can attack anyone, and he has a great gun. She does not check either of those boxes, and I just look at it like, okay, when this works, it'll feel great. But skilled opponents are going to make sure that she never actually gets much more than heals and some moves
Yeah.
out of Fierce Protector, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's a shame. I do want to mention that the new ability for like adding an expertise to defense roll. Cool. Like I get what they're trying to do here, right? Like she's
Yep.
going to be someone who wants to sort of stick close to her friends, is offering some defensive expertise, and then zips in and tries to beat someone up. But yeah, I think the practicality of actually being able to meaningfully use that melee attack is not going to materialize. I do appreciate that she can advance or jump in any direction. Like maybe there's a world where like, hey, you wound something, she runs somewhere else. But I think one of the problems with being a melee only character is, let's say that happens, right? Like she gets on a point that you want to hold, or she's beaten someone and she gets on the point that you want. And then someone across the board gets wounded, and you're like, all right, now I'm gonna leave this objective to go do. Like, you generally
Yep.
don't want to abandon objectives to go do a thing, unless you're like maybe you have perfect deck knowledge, you know what's like gonna happen next, or a reasonable expectation, so you can kind of plan out like I can safely leave this point knowing that someone else is gonna go get it, or I'm gonna have some way to reclaim it on the pull, but. I don't know how often that happens.
Yeah. I get what you're bringing up about the expertise. I like it. It's nice,
Sure.
especially. It's kind of funny because this is an effect that would have gotten around expose, and now coordinated fire expose is gone. I mean, people can still get exposed, so still handy.
Yep.
Still handy even when you're not exposed. But she's a character who's supposed to do a lot not during her activation.
Yeah.
But for a primary, her activation is going to be pretty dang uneventful relative to other primaries. And out of activation, I'm not sure she's making up for that. We should also note she got some buffs to expertise
She did.
on her attack tree. So Jar Kai and 4 and 5 Shen reverse are looking better, and that'll help when if she gets a revenge attack off. She's still tanky. You know, that defense on Shen is really nice, getting a jump on 2 expertise. When you only have to roll 1 expertise and then you can add a second one to get your jump,
Huge.
pretty nice.
Yep.
Pretty nice. You don't heal and jump, unfortunately. But having a primary who's annoying to attack is not an issue for Republic, I don't think. Like, Ki-Adi-Mundi is annoying to attack. Obi-Wan's annoying to attack. Kit Fisto is honestly annoying to attack. So, we'll see. I'd love to be proven wrong because Ahsoka has a great miniature, and I want to see her on the table more.
Yeah, I especially like that. One thing I do appreciate about this is that they're buffing units that most people have, right? If you bought the core box of Shatterpoint, like Anakin, Ahsoka is right there for you, and they've both gotten improved. So if you're someone who maybe took a break from the game, or maybe someone who's played very consistently every weekend, like you and I, then you now have a reason to go back to some old units and put them on the table, and you'll probably have some fun with them. So I do appreciate the effort that's been put into trying to make Ahsoka better. I'll definitely try her again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think there are other units that I'm probably more excited to get onto the board, which is probably a good segue. I think it's my turn.
Yeah, it's your turn. Are you going to take the big guy?
I'll take the big guy because
Yeah, let's do it.
I really, really love the changes they made to Mace. For me, the biggest thing I actually really loved about it was the way they changed Shatterpoint. I don't know if everyone else felt this way, but in my opinion, the Shatterpoint always felt like a card where it's like I could do anything. I can do this big thing that's going to swing the board in my favor. And when you played Mace, you always kind of felt like, well, I'm kind of wasting my Shatterpoint if I don't use it on Mace because like that's kind of why I brought him and I
It's his
hadn't.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of his thing, so I'm gonna do it. I really love that they've made the Shatterpoint more accessible. If you happen to be using it on someone else, you still get such a great benefit out of him. I'd probably still stay. Like I was also of the opinion in the past where I would almost always stay in Jedi Master just for the Force regen,
Hmm.
but I think now, like, yeah, I could see a very legit case for like staying in Vapod, getting the Shatterpoint, Shatterpointing someone else, and still getting a little poke out of him. I also like that he went to 7 points. It is interesting now that he's got one extra point on his box, but that's okay.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
he's got more options.
I think he hit the nail on the head. I love the changes to the Shatterpoint. I don't really have anything to add there. Really, really great stuff.
Yeah,
I think you're going to be able to do some nutty things with essentially 6 Force lists that Mace, like, or 6 when Mace himself is bringing 6.
yeah,
I love that tempered aggression. They changed it to an innate ability,
yep.
so it doesn't conflict with coordinated fire, supporting fire, and all that.
Plus, it doesn't go up in price as he gets wounded, which
This is also good. Yeah, you were never spending 2 Force for 1 reroll or 3 Force for 2 or anything like that. So that's great change.
yeah,
I see it almost as oh, I got Mace at the end of my deck, or I really need this one.
yeah,
Okay, I'll spend it for extra dice.
yeah, absolutely. A little bit like Anakin. Hey, apparently the light side Force users have figured out how to do ranged attacks. Oh
Yes,
boy.
yes.
Oh boy. Two shoves on the first two results when you have a range attack is very, very, very good. And Jedi Master was always a great stance to be in for that
Yep.
Force regen anyway, as well as those heals.
And supporting, it's another way to trigger supporting fire dash. He's a 7, they're a 3. Wow. ARF, they lost expose, they're still going to be everywhere because Anakin and Mace are going to be everywhere.
I do think that's a really funny change that like ARF lost supporting fire, coordinating fire exposed, and I think maybe an initial reaction a lot of people might have is like, oh, I'm done with them. I'm never going to put them on the table again. And then they made all these other changes to all these great Jedi's that it's like, oh, supporting fire dash on a support is so incredibly useful that I
On a
think
3 cost support that you have to take anyways, kind of.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I think ARF gets stapled to most GAR lists, and this has not changed. Like that, you're still
Yep.
being ARF, but for a completely different reason that I think thematically fits with who they are. And I think Mace is just another great example of someone who's really going to take advantage of that. So,
Mm-hmm.
boy, oh boy, what a
Boy, oh
glow up
boy.
for Mace.
Not just to call it out for people
Oh, right.
watching. Lightsaber, like his melee expertise got buffed because before it took 3 expertise to get 2 crits. His defense took a little bit of a hit,
They did.
so he's a little less tanky in Jedi Master, a lot less tanky in Vapid. So just another reason I'll probably hang out in Jedi Master most of the time, but boy, that payoff in Vapid could be really good if you
Absolutely.
get the Shatterpoint at the right time. Speaking of 3 costs to go with 7s, let's finish it off then with good old Commander Pawns. Is he good enough that I would take him and a 4-cost support instead of a 4-cost secondary and a 3-cost support? Probably not, but he is better. Forward Scout, before everyone deployed it to, now he deploys it to, and 2 people deploy it 1 of
Yeah.
him, the supports. So that gets you some extra distance. That helps getting your coordinated fires up the board. For the people who really like having someone on that middle objective for odds, I guess you could take pawns. Again, I still probably wouldn't, but hey, it's an option. And importantly, he can charge himself on the
Exactly.
dash. That's the biggest change, honestly, for me, because that was his problem. He was so slow. Now, hey, I really need an extra move. Instead of moving a friend, he can move himself. So
Yeah.
he seems like a perfectly fine 3.
Yep.
I just don't know if I'm going to take him when I could just take ARF as my 3 instead and get like Rex.
I feel like kind of same thing like the 501st. If you were someone that was really keen on bringing pawns, I have great news for you. Pawns only got better, and aptly so. I think these changes are very appropriate for him, and he feels like a very competent 3-point secondary, which will open a door for whatever else you wanted with your 4-pointer. God knows what else. Um, Is he my first choice? Am I going to play point down? Probably not. But I appreciate that the option is there. And again, if you've had pawns sitting on a shelf for the last 6 months, not doing anything, great news. Why don't you take them out?
As we talked about right at the top, there are some good 4s now. So if
Yeah.
you really like 212 more than you like ARF, perfectly fine. Give it a shot with pawns and 212. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. Keep an eye out for the next video or videos where we go over the rest of these changes.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Bye.